Hi friends, welcome to my channel. In the last video, we talked about the founding of Rome. Now, I'll tell you about the first Roman kings. According to the tradition, the first king of Rome was Romulus, who ruled the city from 653 to 616 BC. His first act was to fortify the Palatine, on which he had himself been reared. Then he called the people together and gave them the rules of law, since nothing else but law could unite them into a single-body politic. The Roman people was divided by Romulus into three tribes: the Ramnes, the Titius, and the Luceres. Each tribe was divided into 10 quarters, called curia. Each curia was divided into 10 gentes, or clans. Each clan was divided into individual families. The curia generally met twice a year, and on these occasions they made up what was called the Commissio Curiata, or Quarter Committee, which, among other things, concerned itself with the election of the king when one died. Everyone had the same right to vote. The majority ruled. The king succeeded and reigned. It was an absolute or pure democracy with no social classes. To help the king out, Romulus created a council of elders called the Senate. It consisted of about 100 members. In the beginning, their only task was to advise the king, but gradually they gained more power and influence. And finally, the army came into existence as a stabilizing organization, itself based upon the division of 30 curia. Each one provided a centurion, 100 soldiers, and a decuria, 10 cavalry members, or knights with horses. The 30 centuria and the 30 decuria, 3,300 men, made up a legion, which was the first and only armed force unit of ancient Rome. The king held the power of life and death over these soldiers, for whom he was their supreme commander. Yet he didn't wield this military power in any absolute, arbitrary, or indiscriminate manner. He commanded all operations, but only after having sought advice from the Commissio Centuriato, the armed legions, from among whom he also requested the commissioning of officers, who were called praetори in those times. In short, Romans took every precaution to ensure that the king couldn't turn into a tyrant. He was to remain a representative of the will of the people. After Romulus died, the Romans claim it was the god Mars who abducted Romulus and led him to heaven, and transformed him into a god, the god Quirinus. Romulus was succeeded by Numa Pompilius as second king of Rome, whom tradition depicts for us as half philosopher, half saint. The thing that interested him most were matters of religion. So Numa decided to bring some order into this situation. In order to impose this order upon his subjects, he had the word spread that every night the nymph Egeria appeared to him in his sleep and revealed instructions to him directly. Anyone who disobeyed wouldn't be dealing with the king, just a man among other men, but with the Sky Father himself in person. Such a strategy may sound childish, but even today it crops up from time to time. Humanity has not made much progress in this regard since the times of Numa. Numa Pompilius ruled from 716 to 673 BC. The 43 years of Numa's reign glided away in quiet happiness, without any war or any calamity. Upon the death of Numa, Tullius Hostilius was elected king. He ruled from 673 to 641 BC. His reign was as warlike as that of Numa had been peaceful. The most memorable event in it is the destruction of Alba Longa. Alba Longa was the richest and most important of the cities and towns that surrounded Rome. A quarrel having arisen between the two cities, and their armies having been drawn in array against each other, the kings determined to avert the battle by combat of champions chosen from each army. There were in the Roman army 3 brothers, born at the same birth, named Horatii. And in the Alban army, in like manner, 3 brothers, born at the same birth and called Curiatii. The 2 sets of brothers were chosen as champions, and it was agreed that the people to whom the conquerors belonged should rule the other. 2 of the Horatii were slain, but the 3 Curiatii were wounded, and the surviving Horatius, who was unhurt, has recourse to stratagem. He was unable to contend with the Curiatii united, but was more than a match for each of them separately. Taken to flight, he was followed by his 3 opponents at unequal distances. Suddenly, turning round, he slew first one, then the second, and finally the third. The Romans were declared the conquerors, and the Albans their subjects. Alba Longa was destroyed, and its inhabitants were removed to Rome. Ancus Marcius, the successor of Tullus Hostilius, ruled from 640 to 616 BC. He also conquered several of the Latin cities and removed many of the inhabitants to Rome, where he assigned them the Aventine for their habitation. During the reigns of these kings, the rural element prevailed in Rome, and its economy was primarily agricultural. Those 3,300 men who comprised the army show us that the overall population must have amounted to about 30,000 people, of which the greater part were probably scattered in the country. Most of them lived in huts made of mud, built in complete disarray and confusion. In the morning, the men went down to the flatlands to plow the earth, and among them were the senators, just like everyone else, yoking the oxen and spreading the seed or harvesting the crops. The boys helped them because working in the fields was their only real schooling, their only real sports. The king himself didn't escape from any of these arrangements. Not until the Tarquinian dynasty were there any uniforms, helmets, or special insignia. Up until Ancus Marcius, the king was an equal among equals. He too plowed the ground behind yoked oxen, scattered seed, and gathered in the harvest. Not surprisingly, he didn't have a palace or an office. Instead, he walked among the people without a security guard, because, had he need one, everyone would have accused him of wanting to reign by force rather than by the consent of the people. He made his decisions sitting under a tree or outside his front door, after having listened to the advice of the elders surrounding him in a ring. It took an Etruscan dynasty to change things radically, both in internal as well as in external politics. I'll tell you about this dynasty in the next video. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss it. At this point, I wish to conclude this video. If it was interesting, leave comments, put likes and repost. Thank you for your attention. See you later. Goodbye.